Hello friends, here we have another nice 2CV. It's a 1987 2CV special, which is slightly different than the usual club models that we normally sell. The special is kind of the cheap version of the 2CV, so it has the front seat bench, as we will see later on. It's missing the passenger sun visor. It has the small dashboard. It has the two-spoke steering wheel. All that stuff was put in from Citroën to make it cheaper versus the more luxury club with the separate seats and the single-spoke steering wheel. So other than that, this car came originally from Holland. It has been rebuilt in Holland quite a few years ago. The workshop where it came from installed a new chassis, new galvanized chassis. It also replaced the floor panels, so brand new aftermarket floor panels, the rocker sills, the inner fenders, the trunk bottom, all that has been replaced in Holland. The car then was imported by one of the reputable importers on the East Coast in Maryland. He brought the car in and it was sold to a woman in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. She had it for quite a few years, didn't drive it much, but bad choice of mechanics there, so we will cover that later. Let's take a peek at the floor panels here. So you can see the brand new floor panels and also the rocker sill, aftermarket material. Then we have in the back the same doors, door cards, everything good shape, no rust. And same here, you see the new rocker sills and box, everything rust free. The inner fenders, all great shape. And let's take a look on the other side for the mileage. When they rebuilt the car, they installed 4 new shock absorbers. They put on brand new tires. They painted the rims, so nicely painted with chrome hubcaps. The original mileage is 84,000 and some kilometers. I think that converts to about 52,000 miles from new. So it would be fairly low mileage for a 2CV of that age. And let's take a look under the hood. I mentioned when the woman had it with mechanics in Santa Fe, New Mexico, they were pretty clueless about a 2CV, so they did quite a few things wrong. The biggest issue was the brake system. When I looked at photos that she sent me, the reservoir here, you should see that nice green glow coming from it, indicating LHM. This is a later model 2CV with disc brakes, so that must have LHM as brake fluid. If you use a standard DOT brake fluid in it, it will kill the entire brake system. All the seals, all the O-rings are dead. They will swell up, see, so the entire brake system had to be replaced because one mechanic had replaced the brake fluid as he would do with ordinary modern cars, but he didn't know about LHM, put DOT in, this was the end. So we got a brand new master brake cylinder here. The rear brakes, new wheel brake cylinders, new brake shoes, everything was redone. On the front end, the calipers, I had to rebuild the calipers, so I pulled the calipers apart, changed all the oil seals inside, and while I was at it, I replaced the brake pads, parking brake pads, all brand new. And this brake line here I had to replace with a copper nickel one because the original aluminum was kinked, bent and deteriorated. So that also came in new. Uh, while we're down here, I always replace the oil seals for the stub axles. The stub axle seals over time start leaking and then you get the transmission oil right into the brakes. and I think one side in this car had already started leaking, so it was about time to replace both of them. For the motor, I pulled the engine out. I changed the front and in this car even the rear crankshaft seal, because especially the front is a notorious issue. It starts leaking over time and it's fairly easy to replace, so it got both new. This car had a rear crankshaft seal leaking as well, so that was done too. And while I had the flywheel out, I inspected the clutch. I found some wear and tear on the clutch, so a brand new clutch kit was installed, a brand new pilot bearing in the crankshaft for the transmission input shaft with the corresponding oil seal got in. You can see that in the photos. Additionally, the oil filler neck, the breather valve had developed issues, so it was not creating a vacuum anymore. So this is why I took it apart and installed the Burton repair revision kit for the oil filler neck, so we have a great vacuum now. And the biggest issue the car had when we got it, it wouldn't run. You could start it, but it was basically just firing on one cylinder, having no power, no torque. And the reason for that was a totally gunked up fuel system. The previous owner had issues for years in Santa Fe that the car would not want to start when it was hot, which is a typical problem for a bad coil. So she took it to several mechanics. They had no clue about the 2CV, so they didn't know about the coil issue and thought Santa Fe is a high altitude, so the problem is altitude related. So they started fiddling with the carburetor and changed the jets and did everything they thought would help. It just made things worse. Bottom line is they replaced the carburetor, and with the new carburetor, surprise, it wasn't running either because the problem was the coil all along. So then they started using additives, and the excessive use of additives over years with the fuel evaporating and leaving behind that residue of gunk completely gunked up the entire fuel system. So to get it running again, I had to replace the gas tank in the back. While I was in the gas tank, I replaced the sender unit because the resistor was corroded for the fuel gauge, so now the fuel gauge works too. The fuel lines, the fuel pump, and the carburetor again. And once all that was done, the car ran beautiful. So the rest of it was basically just ordinary maintenance work. The engine got new ignition, obviously, new spark plugs, that's no big deal. Timing, dwell, everything adjusted. Uh, the valves adjusted, new rocker cap gaskets, fresh oil filter, everything done. So that means the car now as a daily driver is ready to go. I listed as a daily driver for a few reasons. When they redid it in Holland, they painted it, at least partially. The paint job was not a very professional paint job. So having the car stored for quite a few years outdoors in Santa Fe all year round did not help on the paint, so it started oxidizing and some paint was peeling off because they didn't prep it right before they painted it. So we have some cosmetic issues with the car, which does not affect the drivability. The undercarriage, chassis, floor panels, everything underneath is new and rust-free and in great shape. What we see now is just cosmetic issues on top. So to fix all that would require me to completely strip the car apart, have a complete fresh paint job done, which is very costly. It's extremely time intensive. So I decided against that. And so I offer this car as a daily driver where it will be great, but not as a show car, which is cosmetically perfect. And that will save you a lot of money. So you can drive the car without any issues. But if you want it nicer looking. It's not bad after all. When you look at it from some distance, it's all great. When you get closer, you see blemishes here and there. Uh, but if you want to drive it, that doesn't matter. We have seen daily drivers that were in a much, much worse cosmetic condition, but they were mechanically sound, like this car here. So that's why I listed at the bottom end of the price scale as a daily driver. And it will be good for many, many years to come, to hopefully worry-free driving.